It's just not safe to have that amount of guns around where people are drinking.
That's the underlying concern for Juan Braxton, a former Shockoe Bottom club owner who now acts as a liaison between businesses and Richmond police. He says both parties are troubled by recent activity in the neighborhood.
It's more people that's coming to Shockoe Bottom. They're not supporting any other businesses. They come, they start their own parties, they drinking in their cars.
And he says large crowds are gathering in the streets with firearms and not necessarily going inside the clubs.
It makes no sense right now that clubs are losing so much money that it's better for them to close, and the police still have to work overtime getting the streets cleared.
The proliferation of guns we're seeing is just off the charts.
Richmond Police Chief Rick Edwards says his data shows the most weapons violations and gun thefts in the city are happening in Shockoe Bottom, but the act of holding a gun alone is not unlawful.
This is very concerning because while it may be legal to walk around and open carry, if you're mixing alcohol, drugs, and an entertainment environment, it's a recipe for disaster.
After a so-called huge melee on St. Patrick's Day, Edwards says he devised a plan to ramp up police presence on weekend nights. The chief himself worked a shift on April 6 and observed a man who had been in a fight walking with an AR-15, and Edwards pulled him aside.
While I was standing and talking to him, I noticed the outline of another firearm in his waistband. I seized that, thus I was subpoenaed to testify today for a charge of a concealed weapon.
Edwards spoke to us outside the courthouse where the defendant was convicted on Tuesday, an outcome he and prosecutors want to see more of, especially after losing many cases due to technical issues. But the operations are causing a bit of a strain on an already understaffed department. According to data we obtained, RPD has deployed the crowd management team at least 10 times between January and June. That's compared to 0 times last year. Overtime hours worked are up by 37%, and officers are now put on an on-call rotation to work these shifts.
I'd love to not spend the money, time, and risk my officers in the Shockoe Bottom, but that's where the data is telling me to go, and that's what we have to follow.
In April, Officer Anthony Catogio, who responded to a Shockoe incident, sent an email to the chief calling the area an absolute disaster, saying, quote, "I have worked this city's most violent neighborhoods for 18 years. I have never in my career seen people with guns in their hands confronting police officers." He added, "What are we going to do when there's an accidental discharge and the whole crowd opens fire? The chief will give an officer's family a nicely folded flag and be like, 'Sorry, we have no idea who killed your loved one,' because there were 100 cartridge casings."
I share that sergeant's frustrations. I have a lot of respect for him personally. I know he served this agency for 18 plus years, and I respect that. But I disagree with just kind of shouting at the sky about it. I'm looking for solutions, and you can either shout at the sky or you can try to find a solution. I'd prefer the latter.
Along with the operational strategies already in effect here in Shockoe Bottom, the chief says those solutions include striving for more accountability for weapons violations in the courtroom and advocating for stricter laws surrounding guns. Here in Richmond, I'm Tyler Lane for CBS 6 News.